killing of lambs, and he was killed on one of those. But the point is, all the busyness is about Passover, and who is Jesus? Our Passover lamb. That's what the Bible calls him. He is our Passover. Everything that the busyness of those people is about was being fulfilled and brought to an end by one who was on a cross that day. They didn't realize it because what were they doing? As they went by, they were maybe in a big hurry, but they had enough time to yell out, well, if you're the Son of God, save yourself. Because they had no concept of a God who would come down here and let people put nails in his hands and his feet. They don't understand that kind of love, that kind of humility, the way in which God condescended. He came down here, he lived among us, and then he died the death he died. That's amazing. Man can't fathom that. So, Passover. The Bible says he was crucified in a place called Golgotha, the place of the skull. So this hillside in the 1800s particularly, a lot of people were thinking, amongst other things, this could have been the place called Golgotha. Now there are other things that fit about it, and I'll share just a couple more, but let's note this, because this is a powerful thought. So let's see the face of a skull in that. I'm going to show you a picture taken in 1900. You find the face of the skull a little bit left of center in this picture. And I'll tell you a couple things about the picture that give you some thoughts about the face of a skull that you don't get today. One is, the bus station parking lot covers up the whole bottom of the face of the skull in this picture. There is no bus parking lot, of course, in 1900. Secondly, there's no buildings out there. In a sense, this picture does look similar to what it looked like in Jesus' day. There's no build-up out in this area. There's a road that goes by. You even got a couple of camels on the road. All right? And from 200 years before Christ until you get to the 1900s, there's nothing going on out here. You don't build outside the city walls, basically. I mean, you have things going on out there, but there's not this kind of busyness that might lend itself to a few rocks tumbling down every once in a while from this hillside. All right? And so I guess the question, of course, is, could it have looked anything like that in the time of Christ? And the answer is, I don't know. This was a rock quarry. There used to be a whole lot more mountain here. In some think Solomon's time, certainly in Hezekiah's time, a lot of rock went into that city for building projects. But here's the picture. What's a skull? A skull's something you see when something's dead. All the flesh has been eaten away. It's kind of a gross picture. But what's Jesus doing? And again, this is God who came in the flesh, who lived the life experiencing all of our difficulties, and then died the death we died. Amazing picture. Here's another one. You're sitting in what the Bible refers to as the land of Moriah. Okay, so the land of Moriah. Abraham told Isaac, take your son, your only son whom you love, to the land of Moriah, and I'll show you one of the mountains. The land of Moriah. So Jerusalem in Jesus' day was built on Jerusalem and Moriah, two mountains. Okay? Jerusalem to the west, Moriah to the east. So the land of Moriah is actually a hill with four summits to it. Okay, four little peaks. You don't see that today because you just got that flat Temple Mount sitting up there. But four peaks. Where the Gold Dome sits is believed to be where Abraham brought Isaac. That's the second one from the south. This is the highest one and the furthest north. This hill right here is a part of Mount Moriah. You're on that side of the little Tyrolean Valley that separates the two hills. All right? So stop and think about that. Because in that story, of course, ultimately is not really about Abraham and Isaac, although Abraham was obedient to the Lord. And that was the story about Abraham. But God didn't let him kill his son. He stopped him, and he turned, and he had a substitute for his son somewhere else on the hill. A substitute to die in the place of his son. And Abraham knew that this was a story about what God was going to do, because Abraham named the place Jehovah Jireh, the Lord will provide, or the Lord provides. And then Moses made a comment in verse 14 of Genesis 22. He said, as we say to this day in the mountain of the Lord, it shall be provided. Moses knew that that story was about God's provision of a Savior that Moses knew had not yet happened. And yet, he said, said when it does happen, it will happen in the mountain of the Lord. It seems that he puts the cross in the area of Mount Moriah, where this location is, down here, not up on the hill, down here next to a busy road, but not to the west of the city, and the area of Mount Zion, where the traditional site is. That's what it seems like. All right? I got one more thing I'm going to share with you, but we're going to stop here. Because we want to let these folks up here, and I want you to be able to take some pictures. So kind of move this way best you can. Don't worry about the other group as long as you're quiet. Take some pictures, and then we're going to go down those stairs right here.